Imagine a quiet crack in the foundation of something you cherish, maybe like a tiny fissure that, if you leave it untended, it can slowly, insidiously spread until the whole structure is compromised. In our closest relationships, that crack often goes by a single powerful name: resentment. So today we're embarking on a deep dive to unpack how this really toxic emotion builds up, and maybe more importantly, how we can address it before it damages our most precious bonds. We've compiled a stack of insights, from psychological experts and real-world experiences to guide us.
Right. And at the heart of it, resentment is often, well, it's kind of a disguised battle for empathy. It's not simply about who's right or wrong in an argument. It's more of a profound misunderstanding, a refusal, really, to truly see or care about each other's experience. And that can make genuine connection nearly impossible. It's like two people fighting over who is suffering more instead of actually tending to the suffering itself.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you and your relationships? We'll explore why it feels so incredibly difficult to let go of that simmering anger, and the surprising toll resentment takes not just on your relationships, but on you personally. And then, most importantly, we'll equip you with a powerful set of tools to rebuild connection. Things like setting clear intentions, mastering empathic communication.
Yeah, and learning the art of a genuine apology, establishing those healthy boundaries that protect your peace. It's quite a toolkit.
When you think about common relationship problems, what first springs to mind? Is it money? Maybe sex. Surprisingly, many experts seem to agree that it's the quiet, unattended pain that accumulates, that eventually ferments into resentment. That often proves to be the biggest hurdle in intimate partnerships. It's that subtle, corrosive buildup of hurt that really eats away at a bond.
It truly is an insidious battle for empathy. Think about Paula and John, a couple we learned about. Paula expresses hurt by something John said, asks him to be kinder. Pretty simple, right? But instead of just hearing her, John immediately brings up how Paula shut down his experience last month.
The counterattack.
Exactly. Then Paula counters with something he did 2 months ago, and, well, so it goes. It becomes this never-ending cycle where neither person is truly heard, because each one feels completely justified in their past behavior and refuses to offer the other empathy. They dig their heels in.
But why?
Yeah.
Why does that happen? Why refuse empathy?
Often, partners believe that if they offer empathy to the other person, it means they're admitting blame for their own actions. It's almost as if caring about your pain automatically cancels out my need to be validated for my pain, you know?
Right, like it's a zero-sum game.
Precisely. And this creates a destructive cycle where these unhealed wounds prevent the very kindness and support that intimacy desperately needs to survive. The space for simply being heard just disappears, replaced by this sort of defensive standoff.
And what the sources make shockingly clear is just how dangerous this really is. Resentment isn't merely unpleasant. It's described by experts as the most toxic of all emotions, even a cancer that metastasizes. If you allow it to fester, it will eventually make it impossible for a healthy relationship to survive. That's a pretty stark warning for all of us, isn't it?
It really is, and that raises a crucial point. What is the profound impact of holding on to these grudges? It extends far beyond just our emotional state. It profoundly affects our physical health. Chronic resentment triggers your body's stress response.
Right, the fight or flight thing.
Exactly, leading to ongoing tension and anxiety. You might see increased heart rate, higher blood pressure, and long-term stress actually weakens your immune system, making you more susceptible to illness. And, of course, these negative emotions significantly increase the risk of depression and other mental health challenges. It's a whole cascade.
So the sources are making it clear there's this sheer physical burden we often unknowingly carry when we hold on to that anger and bitterness. You might find yourself replaying incidents over and over in your mind, maybe feeling persistent physical tension in your body, like in your shoulders or jaw, or actively avoiding the person you resent. These aren't just mental quirks. They're very real signs that your body and mind are deeply affected by this emotional weight.
Absolutely.
But here's the good news, right? While resentment won't magically disappear on its own, we absolutely can take steps to rebuild. It takes conscious effort, for sure, but the possibility of reemerging empathy and connection is genuinely there. So where do we even begin?
Well, it starts with something surprisingly simple, yet profoundly powerful. A shared intention. This is a conscious decision, made together, ideally, to recreate empathy, deepen intimacy, or simply just ease the existing resentment. It's about agreeing that this is an issue you'll both bring active attention to.
Like putting it on the agenda.
Kind of, yeah. And even if one partner is initially unwilling, maybe because of that very resentment one person can start alone, those small, consistent efforts can still yield positive results over time.
Okay, so intention first. What about something more concrete? One tangible, almost ritualistic step mentioned is pressing the restart button. This involves agreeing on a specific date to begin again with a clean slate. From that day forward, past hurts no longer invalidate your current feelings, and both partners are sort of considered innocent and entitled to kindness and support in the present moment.
It's like wiping the slate clean transactionally.
Exactly. Some couples even celebrate this as a new anniversary, a symbolic recommitment to a fresh start. What a powerful way to reset the dynamic.
It can be. Now, a frequent root of resentment is what's called an emotional imbalance within the relationship. It's crucial to honestly ask yourself, is this resentment coming from my own internal patterns, maybe a tendency to be overly critical or hold grudges, or am I genuinely feeling taken advantage of, like consistently doing more of the emotional or practical heavy lifting?
That's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. But the goal here isn't blame. It's to acknowledge that feeling of resentment as important data that needs to be explored. It's telling you something significant.
Okay, so you identify that imbalance. What then? How do you bring it up without starting another fight? Well, one critical communication technique is to initiate a conversation when you're both calm and collaborative, definitely not in the heat of an argument. The experts suggest a script something like this. It is my experience that we have an emotional imbalance in our relationship. I've been feeling like I'm doing more of the heavy lifting lately. Here are some examples, and you give specifics. And I am aware that I'm starting to feel resentful. Can we please look at this problem together? That together part feels key.
It absolutely is. And the key to making that conversation effective lies in the partner's response. The ideal reaction is, well, empathy and curiosity, not defensiveness. Even if they don't immediately agree with your assessment, they should be willing to explore your concern, saying something like, okay, your data is valuable. Let's work together to understand what's happening here.
Rather than, no, I don't.
Right. That collaborative approach invites intimacy and true teamwork, steering clear of the destructive me versus you dynamic that just fuels more resentment.
We all know the everyday reality of communication breakdown, though. Think about Zane and Laura from our sources. Zane comes home from a grueling day, kicks off his shoes, heads straight to the den.
Yeah.
Classic move. Laura, who's been, as she put it, running at full tilt all day with the kids and dinner, trips over his shoes. Predictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
When she expresses her exhaustion and annoyance, Zane immediately gets defensive, saying he needs to unwind. This escalates quickly, with each person feeling completely justified and utterly misunderstood. What's often missing in these moments? Empathy. That word again.
Exactly. And to truly bridge that gap, we need to understand empathy a bit better. Psychologists Daniel Goleman and Paul Ekman break it down into 3 crucial kinds, each playing a different role in connection. First, there's cognitive empathy. That's basically the intellectual understanding of how someone else feels and what they might be thinking. Like, I see you're upset.
Okay, head knowledge.
Right. Then there's emotional empathy, where you actually feel what someone else is feeling. This is where true, deeper connection begins. You resonate with their emotion.
Feeling with them.
Yes. And finally, there's compassionate empathy. This is where you not only understand and feel what someone else is experiencing, but you're actually moved to take action and help them. That's the ultimate goal in a caring relationship.
So how do we cultivate more of that crucial compassionate empathy, especially when we're feeling defensive ourselves? The sources lay out 5 key steps. First, listen hard and ask thoughtful questions. You need to be completely present, listening for the emotion behind the words, not just the story. Ask open-ended questions like, what's bothering you the most about X? Or, how have you been feeling about that?
Not, why are you so upset? Which sounds accusatory.
Good point. Second, connect with the feeling, not the situation. If you can't relate to their specific situation, maybe you've never forgotten an anniversary. Recall a time you felt that same underlying emotion, like neglected or unimportant. It's about stepping into their emotional shoes, not necessarily their literal ones.
Makes sense.
Third, share your own feelings carefully. Now, this is tricky. It means sharing your past experiences with that specific feeling. But, and this is crucial, avoid problem solving or cheering them up. Just be present with their pain. Like, if they're feeling humiliated, maybe share a brief memory of when you felt humiliated, and then just stop there. Let them have the space.
Right, don't make it about you.
Exactly. Fourth, and only after you've done the previous steps, you can ask, what can I do? Ask supportive questions like, is there anything you need from me right now? Or if I could do one wonderful thing to support you, what would it be?
Mm.
And finally, number 5, practice makes perfect. Empathy isn't automatic for everyone. It's a skill that truly improves with consistent, curious listening and genuine presence.
That's so true. And when it comes to communicating about really difficult issues, there's another powerful technique called the taking turns way. Here, one person expresses their upset fully, gets it all out, and the other person listens without rebuttal. No interrupting, no defending.
Wow, that sounds hard.
It is. But the listener's experience, their side of things, is held for the next day. This encourages genuine, non-defensive listening because you know your turn to speak isn't coming immediately. It allows you to truly hear and mirror your partner's experience without that urge to jump in and defend yourself.
That takes discipline. Another incredibly effective structured listening method is the Imago dialogue. Have you heard of this?
Yes, it's quite structured.
Very. It's a 3-step process, ensuring both partners feel truly heard. First, you mirror by repeating back what you hear. Okay, let me see if I understand. You said XYZ. Did I get that right? Then you validate by acknowledging that what they've said makes sense from their perspective, even if you don't agree. Okay, what you've said makes sense. I can see why you'd feel that way.
Validation is an agreement. That's key.
Precisely. And finally, you empathize by sharing what you imagine they might be feeling based on what they said. I imagine you might be feeling hurt or maybe frustrated. Only then do you switch roles. It's a powerful way to force true understanding.
It really slows things down. You know, it's interesting how our society often emphasizes speaking up, advocating for ourselves, finding our voice. Yet our sources highlight that nothing makes us feel more deeply connected than when we are engaged in a healthy balance of thoughtful speaking and hardcore listening.
Hardcore listening, I like that.
Yeah, it challenges our assumptions about what truly creates intimacy and understanding. Maybe listening is the stronger skill sometimes.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. When damage has occurred, especially due to that built-up resentment, the partner's role in repairing it often comes down to one crucial act: apologizing. But as we know, it's far more nuanced than just muttering the words, "I'm sorry."
Oh, absolutely. Apologies are challenging because they demand, well, guilt, vulnerability, and the courage to face potential rejection. Our ego can easily get in the way of admitting mistakes, making it difficult to offer a sincere apology and truly empathize with the pain we've caused. This is where the deeper work really begins.
We see this play out in real life all the time, and the sources offer powerful examples. Take Amber, who completely forgot her 10-year anniversary. Huge deal, right?
Ouch. Yes.
Josh felt neglected and hurt, understandably. But instead of a genuine apology, Amber made excuses, even brought up dry cleaning she needed to pick up.
Deflect.
Totally. Or Millie, who mocked her friend Samantha via text message. In both cases, the lack of genuine remorse or the attempts to explain away the hurt only worsened the situation. It turned what could have been maybe minor issues into these major resentment-building rifts.
So how do you genuinely apologize? How do you make sure it actually lands and begins to heal the rift? According to Gary Chapman, the love languages guy, there are actually 5 ways to express an apology, and missing even one can undermine your efforts. First, expressing regret, the actual "I'm sorry." Second, taking responsibility, saying "I made a mistake" or "I was wrong."
Owning it.
Yes. Third, making amends, asking "How can I make it right?" Fourth, genuinely repenting, meaning "I promise not to repeat it," and meaning it. And fifth, requesting forgiveness, explicitly asking, "Will you forgive me?" An effective apology often involves several, if not all, of these components, tailored to the situation and the person.
And it's so important to remember that the sincerity of an apology extends beyond just the words themselves, right? It's in the tone, the intention behind it, and maybe most importantly, your subsequent actions. An apology without changed behavior is often just an empty promise.
And that can build even more resentment. It feels manipulative then.
Exactly. Which leads us to prevention.
Boundaries. Yes. To prevent resentment from building up in the first place, establishing healthy boundaries is absolutely critical. Boundaries are simply the limits and rules we set for ourselves within relationships. They define what we are and are not comfortable with. They exist on a spectrum, really. You can have rigid boundaries where you avoid intimacy, rarely ask for help, seem kind of walled off. Or you can have porous boundaries where you overshare constantly, struggle to say no, maybe accept disrespect because you don't want conflict.
Finding the middle ground
That's the goal. Healthy boundaries,
Yeah.
where you value your own opinions, you communicate your needs clearly, but you're also comfortable accepting when others say no to you. It's about mutual respect.
So what does a boundary actually look like in practice? There are different types, aren't there?
There are. Think about physical boundaries, personal space, touch, intellectual boundaries respecting different thoughts and ideas, emotional boundaries governing when and what personal info you share. Then there are sexual boundaries, consent, comfort levels, material boundaries, limits on lending or borrowing possessions, and time boundaries, protecting your time for different life areas like work, family, self-care.
And a consistent violation in any of these areas is like a direct pipeline to resentment, isn't it? If someone constantly borrows your stuff without asking or ignores your need for quiet time.
Absolutely. It builds up over time. So when it comes to setting these boundaries, there's some practical advice that can make all the difference. First, plan ahead what you want to say, if possible, so you're clear and confident, not fumbling in the moment. Use confident body language, make eye contact, maintain a steady tone, helps convey seriousness. Always be respectful. Avoid yelling or put-downs, even when you're expressing discomfort or saying no. Keep it about the behavior, not the person. And finally, be open to compromise when appropriate. While you should never compromise your core values, relationships do involve give and take.
And sometimes you just need to say no, clearly.
Yeah.
What are some good phrases?
Direct is often best. Things like, I'm not comfortable with this, or I can't do that for you right now, or simply, this doesn't work for me. Clear, respectful, unambiguous.
Okay, boundaries are key for prevention. But what about dealing with the resentment that's already there? Let's talk about forgiveness.
Right, the journey of forgiveness, which in its essence is really one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. What's truly insightful here is what forgiveness is and what it isn't. It's a conscious, intentional process of releasing that resentment, the anger, the bitterness, primarily for your own peace.
Not for the other person.
Not necessarily. It is not condoning the hurtful behavior. It's not forgetting what happened, and it doesn't automatically mean reconciling with the other person. You can forgive someone internally, let go of that charge without ever speaking to them again. It's about your own liberation from that negative energy.
The benefits sound huge. We're talking mental, emotional, even physical well-being.
Immense benefits. Studies show it can lead to reduced anxiety and depression, improved emotional regulation, increased empathy even for others, and stronger relationships if reconciliation is possible. And physically, yes, it's associated with lower blood pressure, reduced risk of heart disease, even less chronic pain.
Wow. Think about that for a moment. Letting go of bitterness literally helps your body heal. It's not just about emotional freedom, it's about fundamental well-being.
It truly is interconnected. So how do you actually embark on this process of forgiving others? It's not always easy. There's a kind of path you can follow. First, acknowledge the hurt. Really recognize the pain the offense caused you. Don't minimize it. Second, identify the emotions you're feeling. Anger, sadness, betrayal, fear. Name them. Third, consider the circumstances surrounding the offense. This is for deeper understanding, maybe seeing their perspectives or limitations, but without excusing the behavior.
Context, not excuses.
Exactly. Fourth, make the decision to forgive. Understand it's primarily for your well-being, your peace, not necessarily for them. Fifth, release resentment. This is the active part, consciously letting go of those negative feelings, maybe through journaling, therapy, or just internal intention. And finally, focus on the present and future. Shift your attention away from dwelling on the past hurt and towards moving forward.
We've talked about forgiving others, but what about self-forgiveness? That feels like it could be the hardest part for a lot of people.
It often is. Many of us are much harder on ourselves than on others. Self-forgiveness involves acknowledging your own missteps, learning from them, making amends where possible, absolutely. And crucially, developing self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you might offer a friend.
Accepting your imperfections while committing to positive change. Letting yourself move forward.
Precisely. And a very important point here. What if forgiveness feels impossible? Especially with deep wounds or trauma, it can feel absolutely insurmountable, and that's okay.
It's okay if it takes time.
It's absolutely okay to take time. Healing is a journey. It unfolds at its own pace. It's not linear. In these situations, professional help like therapy, counseling, support groups can provide essential guidance and tools to process that grief, anger, and fear in a safe, supported space. You don't have to do it alone.
That's really important, because despite all these tools and insights, many of us face the deep struggle of chronic, lingering resentment. We hear stories, like in our sources, about years of broken promises where people feel like the soul was gone from their relationships. This isn't just a fleeting feeling, it can be a profound, persistent weight.
It really can. And when resentment continues to linger despite your best efforts, it's crucial to honestly ask if it's your work, maybe rooted in unrealistic expectations you hold, or a personal tendency to hold grudges, or if it's genuinely an imbalance where your partner is repeatedly unresponsive to your efforts, your bids for connection or change.
How do you figure that out?
Journaling can be incredibly powerful here. Guiding yourself with difficult questions like, what exactly am I resentful about? Be specific. What impact is this resentment having on my life, my health, my happiness? What am I unwilling to accept about this situation, and why is that acceptance so hard? And perhaps the most telling question, what bad thing do I fear would happen if I let go of this resentment today? Sometimes we hold on to it because it feels protective or like the only validation we have.
Understanding your own role in the dynamic is vital then. Not for self-blame, you said, but for empowerment.
Exactly. It helps you identify what you can control so you don't feel completely powerless. And it ensures you're communicating any unmet expectations clearly and directly, giving the relationship the best chance.
But what if you do all that? You communicate, you set boundaries, you try to forgive, and the pattern just persists.
Ultimately, when persistent efforts to resolve resentment fail, you may face a difficult, deeply personal decision. You might choose to continue to work tirelessly for balance and connection, perhaps with professional help. Or you might need to consider if a different path, even ending the relationship, could lead to more happiness and lightness for you personally.
That's the really hard part.
It is. Just bear in mind, if the core issue, the work to be done, is primarily on your end, your patterns, your expectations, that problem might follow you wherever you go into the next relationship. But if the weight is truly on your partner's end, and they remain consistently unresponsive or unwilling to engage with your sincere efforts, then ending that dynamic could indeed bring the peace and lightning you seek. It's a deeply personal calculation.
Wow. Okay. We've journeyed really deep today, haven't we? Exploring resentment, its roots in that subtle battle for empathy, and a pretty comprehensive set of tools to counter it, from setting clear intentions and engaging in that hardcore active listening, to offering genuine apologies, establishing healthy boundaries, and embracing the truly transformative power of forgiveness, both for others and ourselves.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from this deep dive is that dealing with resentment is rarely about a single fix, like a magic bullet. It's much more of a continuous conscious effort to cultivate empathy, courage, and self-awareness, both individually and within your relationships. It's truly a journey of healing and growth, and one that honestly is immensely rewarding when you commit to it.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. If resentment is the poison that slowly kills intimacy, then maybe radical honesty, bold vulnerability, and an unwavering commitment to understanding, even and especially when it's uncomfortable, are the antidotes. What small step, maybe just one tiny thing, can you take today to start tending to your relationship garden, making space for kindness and curiosity to take root once more? We really hope this exploration helps you cultivate deeper, more resilient connections in your life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.